Joining us now is Florida Republican Congressman Cory Mills. He serves on both the House Foreign Affairs and Armed Services Committees and is also a U.S. Army combat veteran and Bronze Star recipient. Congressman, thank you for joining me. I want to first ask
Thank you.
of course, do you think additional U.S. military intervention in Iran is necessary? And if it leads to another prolonged conflict in the Middle East, is that something a majority of Americans would support?
Well, I wouldn't even support that, Ike, and I know the president wouldn't either. We're not looking at getting ourselves into these forever wars like we saw with Iraq and Afghanistan, where 20 plus years, trillions of dollars, and thousands of lives were pledged and lost. And so, what we are looking at, however, is ensuring that the basic human rights essentials are actually being provided to these protesters, where they're actually being targeted by this tyrannical Islamic dictatorship. And so, what we're looking at now, as you see with the continual support of Starlink to try and help with the blackouts, as well as for encouraging messages from the United States, from the administration, and from the prince himself, Reza Pahlavi, is that they're ready to see a freely elected democratic Iran no longer under this type of an Islamic dictatorship.
Now, between Iran, Syria, Venezuela, Nigeria, Cuba, Colombia, and now Greenland, do you think the U.S. is getting too involved in international affairs? And should Congress be pre-authorizing these decisions?
Well, I think that it's clear that what's happening is that President Trump is returning America to the world stage as a leader. And we've also done a lot to try and help with a lot of these peace strategies you saw with Israel and Hamas, as you had seen with many of the different countries that the president's been involved with, to include Pakistan and India, which could have been something that spiraled out of control. Look, when you talk about Venezuela, he helped to apprehend through legal manner and constitutionality a tyrannical dictator who was the leader of a cartel. When you talk about kind of whether or not it should come to Congress, look, under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 11 through 13 of our Constitution, war power authorities are supposed to stay with Congress. However, people in 1957, 91, 2001, and 2002 did something where they voted for an authorized use of military force, which actually abdicates their roles and responsibilities to the executive branch. Now, President, as well as for any president, already has Article 2 executive powers when it comes to war power authority. So what he's doing right now, whether it's Venezuela, whether it was going after Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi in his first administration, or whether it's looking at support for Iran and other areas, is well within the constitutionality and balance of what we need to help with security, peace, and stability.
You know, one of the things President Trump campaigned on was no new foreign interference. And right now we're seeing President Trump calling on Cuba to make a deal with the U.S., quote, before it's too late. Would you support regime change in Cuba? And do you see the situation playing out like Venezuela?
Well, first, let me just correct. It's not really looking at military intervention as much as it is trying to go ahead and look at peace, safety, and security for the Western Hemisphere. I mean, many people talk about the Trump corollary to the Monroe Doctrine. And what's actually you're seeing right now is that we're preventing illicit drug trades, trafficking of human women and children across the borders, and the cartels continue to grow stronger, but also making sure that Iran, China, North Korea, and Russia are kept at bay with this axis of evil that has continued to try and target the West and eliminate the global currency, which is the US dollar. So what the president's doing is simply making a stand to say, we want peace, but we will prepare for war, as you saw with his executive order to take it from 1 trillion to 1.5 trillion in defense spending this year. So what the president's doing is not trying to create forever wars. He's not trying to look at interventionism. He's looking at it to be a protectionist of the American people, our society, and our way of life.
All right, Congressman Mills, thank you for your time.